Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm a little bit early here. Just got finished fixing dinner for the fam. They're all upstairs now, chilling out, getting ready to go to bed. And we're going to try to get through what we got to get through tonight as quickly as possible so I can join them. Remember to give StreamYard your credentials so that I can see who you are when you want to comment. I'm much more likely to answer questions if I see a name attached to it. Welcome, everybody. I see the room is filling up pretty fast. So it's raining here tonight. It's been good. It snowed a lot last weekend. I measured 6 inches of snow out. The riding, but I have put the bikes away and everything. I'm getting ready to. We're preparing for our annual winter vacation right now, our getaway, and I've got some stuff I have to do around the house, and then I had to sit down and work on Tour of Idaho 2022. Uh, we're about at the top of the hour, so I'm just going to start rolling. What I want to do tonight is just in very broad strokes paint a picture of what the Tour of Idaho 2022 is going to look like. Now, I'm not going to give away everything tonight, and some of it's never going to be given away because we're going to fundamentally change the way we do business next year. But I want to let all of you that are out there in the queue for next year know as soon as possible what kind of plans you have to make, because this year is the most revolutionary series of changes we've ever made. Normally, changes from year to year I tell everybody, they're evolutionary rather than revolutionary. This year, that's not true. We're really changing our basic MO on the way that we do things. I'm going to go through it day by day here in a few minutes, but let me just tell you a little bit philosophically about what's going to change. So, one of the things that I always wanted to do, when I sat down and created this and as it's evolved through the years, is I wanted to keep the sense of adventure high. And I'd say this all the time. Some people get it, some people don't. The people that get it. The people that don't are never going to get it. So I don't know why I keep saying it, but this is not principally a motorcycle ride. And that's what incenses a lot of people. I'll be the first person to tell you I'm a very average motorcycle rider. I don't ride great. I can ride all day long at a certain pace, and things don't scare me very much. But I'm just okay when it comes to dirt bikes anyway. And so guys come through that have all this race experience and they're on the gas, and something happens and they don't finish and they're all pissed off about it. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. I tried to tell you up front, this is principally an outdoor adventure in which a motorcycle is a very important tool. Now, if you ride like Jimmy Lewis or Michael Knight or Jeff Jensen or some of these other really, Brian Millis, some of these other really high functioning guys, then your motorcycle skill is a lot of mistakes. But those guys never made mistakes when they rode anyway. I mean, they were not only peerless riders, but they also really took to heart everything else. But if you're just a guy that's a race jockey, you're all your motorcycle experience is riding circles around a track somewhere. You're going to find the Tour of Idaho extremely difficult because there are some things that we deliberately put into it that are designed to challenge, for instance, your ability to navigate, your ability to function by yourself in the middle of nowhere, your ability to maintain your bike, your ability to kind of just function way in the middle of the outdoors. So it's not like doing 10,000 laps around, a track in the woods somewhere. It's something that's fundamentally a lot different. So throughout the years, I created this whole thing to fit my skill set, to basically do things that I like to do. I like the outdoors, I like the mountains, and I like motorcycles. And so I try to put all those things together. And it's grown and evolved, and in most ways, I just am pleased as punch about the way things have worked. I really, really dig the heck out of most of the people that I've met through the tour. Sure, there's a person that comes along every once in a while that's a pain in the ass, but overwhelmingly, the people that I've met through the tour are high character people that I just dig the heck out of. And the only thing I feel horrible about is that there's only one of me, not an entire army. Like this year, I promised some guys I'd go riding with them, and I just couldn't do it. Uh, and so please don't ever take my absence as any kind of a slight against you, but I am one guy, not an entire army. And I could only be in one place at once. And you know what? I'm a 65-year-old guy that happens to be fortunate enough to have two kids, both younger than 6 at home, and a beautiful wife who somehow thinks that I'm okay. And I'm not gonna ignore all that. When you win the lottery, you really ought to thank your lucky stars. So I spend a fair amount of time with my family, and nothing's gonna get in the way of that. So, but sometimes I'm not able to. I think show the proper amount of respect or to do some things with people that are involved in the tour community to the degree that I would like, and I apologize for that. But it just is what it is. I see Jim Spooner's in the room, and I'm going to talk about him presently. How you doing, Jim? Good win this weekend. I hope it goes well for you guys next weekend too, if you still have a coach. But anyway, back to the philosophical changes in the tour. What I want to do is keep the level of adventure high. And as the tour has gotten more and more popular, some things have started to sort of drift into it that bother me a little bit. Now, again, I want to make it perfectly clear that this is not intended to be, I'm not slagging on any person, any team. The people that have finished the last few years, you all followed the rules. You were smart enough to understand what the rules were. Good for you. That's just fine. So please don't take this the wrong way. But I have seen an increase in things like pre-riding, and you didn't used to bother me that much when people went out and pre-rode. If you're just trying to pre-ride it, to see if you can do it, which a lot of people have done. They've gone out and pre-ridden, 2, 3, 4 days of the route just to see what they're getting into, just to see if they can do it. And I never objected to that. But then it started getting into, you'd see people going out pre-riding so they could come back and set every land speed record in the world. Now, then all of a sudden it's just, that's something that's a little bit different. So I wanted to do what I could to discourage extensive pre-riding and sort of keep the level of adventure as high as I can. And I talked to some other tour vets, and I was actually amazed that most people felt the same way that I did about it. They saw what's gone on the last couple of years, and they said, yeah, we kind of see the same thing. You could watch last year, the splits, and you could tell which days some of these teams have pre-ridden. Because the days there have been people in the past few years that have pre-ridden some days multiple times. In one case, I know of a team that rode a day at least a half a dozen times, just trying to wire it. There was nothing wrong with that. That was not against any rules. I have a great deal of respect and admiration for people that read the rule book. As I told you all on a previous PBR Monday, I won my first race that way. Took advantage of a class that a motorcycle that I had was allowed in that I happened to know could beat all the other people that were in that class. There's nothing wrong with that. But I never anticipated the degree to which this would become a problem. Over preparation, if you will. You can prepare too much, and then it kind of reduces the adventure a lot. So I talked to several people about this. I put together a group of recent tour finishers, and I was amazed that most of them felt exactly the same way as I did, and all of them did to a degree. So we started saying to ourselves, how could we do two things that we really want to do? One, there's some trails that I've been dying to find a way to put on the tour, but I didn't want to add a whole bunch of extra time to it. But two, how can we make sure that the level of adventure remains high? So the problem with the first is when you add a lot of trail, you start making the tour harder than it was for people that did it in previous years, unless you add a number of days to it, which is what we finally decided we had to do. We finally decided that the new trails we wanted to put on were of high enough quality that people would say, yeah, that was worth the extra time. And I don't think anybody will argue with that. And then in terms of the pre-riding business, we just said, okay, why don't we just make more of the Tour of Mystery route? And everybody was gung-ho about that. So those are the big changes that are going to be coming next year. We added a ton of the best single track trail that Good Dreams are capable of conjuring. You all are going to dig the heck out of this new trail. It is simply spectacular. I love it. There were times when I was pinching myself to make sure it was real when I was riding some of this stuff. And that's just the stuff I came up with. These way up north guys, Jim Spooner and Andrew Hickson, are cooking up some equally tasty stuff for us up on what would be the current day 9, which will not be day 9 next year. So, but I think what we're going to do is most of this new stuff, we're going to do the way that we had to do day 9 next year. If you make it that far, we're going to tell you where to go. Now, to that point, tonight, I'm going to tell you some of the places you're going to be spending the night and on what night you're going to be spending there so that you can make some reservations. But Laksha Lodge is gone. That was the place that was always really problematic for reservations. Most other places, you could just kind of roll in and make a reservation. So I'm going to tell you tonight some of the places you're going to be staying. So as you start to plan your tour, you'll be able to say, well, I can reserve a room in this place right now if I want to. And that'll be good because the intervals are not going to change from what I'm telling you tonight. We already know what the intervals are going to be. There's a few little connector trails and stuff we're still working out, but basically we know what the tour is going to look like next year, at least in terms of intervals. So I'm going to go through all that with you tonight. But I'm going to tell you what right now, there's going to be one night I'm not going to tell you where you're going tonight, and I may not tell you where you're going unless you make it far enough into the tour that you need to know. There's one night that I may make your reservation for you. I'm still trying to ponder whether or not that'll work. But I think it would be a passable situation that I could just call the people. And if you get that far into the tour that morning, I'll send you an email and go, here's your route today, and this is where you're going to stay that night. And everybody dug the heck out of that. They just said that just puts the adventure factor through the roof. You don't even know where you're going to be spending the night. You have no idea where you're going the next day. And you'll have a set of directions like we gave out for day 9 this year. I've ridden all this stuff. I've followed my own directions and stuff, and it's going to be just fine. So this year, the tour will be a mixture of maps that I will publish. They'll be up like they always have been. There'll be some waypoint files, which you can download. But the way we're going to keep you from spending a bunch of time building routes and going out and pre-riding stuff or, to try to set land speed records, we're not going to tell you where you're going for a lot of this stuff. And the other reason, frankly, is some of these trails that we're going to send you on next year don't get ridden all that much. They're way up in the mountains, way in the middle of nowhere. Not a lot of people know about it. And all of us in the group that helped me put this together have a similar concern about offering up our choicest trails to people. I'm okay with doing that for people that actually want to show up and do a tour of Idaho. I'll tell you where all the good stuff is. And that's what this tour is. It's where all the good stuff is. But I don't know if I just want to put that stuff out there for every Tom, Dick, and Harry. And to that end, there's no longer a T2. I never wanted to have anything to do with T2. I got talked into it. There were some good reasons for having it, but from now on, the only thing I'm interested in is the Tour of Idaho T1. I may come up with like some super hard enduro version of a trail ride through Idaho before I get out of this. I will continue to maintain what is now called T4. But there's no more. The only thing I'm going to work on anymore, the only thing I'm going to put up any information about is T1. I'll leave the T3 and the T4 stuff out there for people that want to use it, but I'm not going to work on that stuff at all. If you want to deal with me, I'll deal with you if you want to do a T1. Otherwise, there's good trails all over Idaho. Put them all together. Now, let's just go through how it's. Oh, a couple of other things philosophically before I get started going through day by day. I'm going to limit it to 30 teams next year. Last few years, we've had some really explosive growth, and it's a lot. A few of you who have gotten a glimpse into what it actually takes to do all this, I think I horrified a couple people when I showed them what actually goes into all this. And, one year there were nearly 40 teams, and, a lot of those teams don't even get out of Malad. Sometimes there's good reasons for that. I mean, I understand that. And again, I'm not really slagging on people, but I then spent months and months and months, riders meetings, PBR Mondays, talking to people through email and stuff. And then, they got all the way here and didn't get very far. So what I want to do next year is just limit the number of teams, and I'm only going to limit it to teams that I think are serious teams. If during all that process, I'm going to do a little vetting this year, and I'll be asking you some questions and stuff like that. And if I determine that you probably don't have much of a chance of getting very far, I'm going to put you at the bottom of the list. So it'll be limited to 30 teams this year, and preference goes to people who haven't been here before. So returning teams are going to go to the back of that list. If you have never been here before, if you haven't ridden in Idaho, I'm going to give you some bonus points. We're going to continue to allow, and not only allow, but encourage people to pre-ride day one. But if you pre-ride anything beyond day one, there's going to be some penalties. And, if it's just a little bit here and there, you were in Idaho 5 years ago and you rode some stuff up around Baumgartner that we use. I don't know that we'll worry too much about that. But if you're like some people this year that basically rode the whole thing before they did it, and in not just this year, but the last couple of years, there's going to be some penalties associated with that. You're going to have to ride more trail. And the last thing is, the challenge sections this year are all for real. I tried to cut people some slack, and I tried to make at least one or two challenge sections, put them out there so that, they weren't that bad. You could do them, or if they were bad, they were short and they cut off a lot of ride. I always try to cut people a little bit of slack in challenge sections because I understand that, everybody, we all ride motorcycles, we all went fishing, and the one that got away was 18 feet long. I get all that. But I'm getting a little bit tired of, people. I tell everybody, look, I think I'm pretty good at describing the difficulties involved in challenge section. It's physically easy, but it's a little scary. This one's physically extremely difficult, but it's not scary. This one is both physically difficult and scary. And I'm tired of people, or this one is dead simple, but it just adds a lot of time to the route. And I tell people all this stuff, then they ride it, and I see their videos. They go, well, that challenge section sucked. That wasn't anything. Why is that called a challenge section? Well, okay. I'm sorry I wasted time. You convinced me. Every challenge section this year is a huckleberry. They're all hard as hell. Most of them are both hard and scary. And because of that, I am going to reduce the requirements for challenge sections, I think. Probably one of the things that I will do will be to say that soloists don't have to do any two-person teams. Instead of having to do two, you may just have to do one, and three-person teams may just have to do two. I don't know. I'm still working my way through that. If you've done a lot of pre-riding, I'm going to make you ride challenge sections even if you're a soloist, though. But all the challenge sections this year, we even made Custer worse than it was. And everybody rolled their eyes when I told them what I was doing at Custer. So you have that to look forward to. But outside the challenge sections, the trails are just simply stunning and spectacular and a ton of fun. And you guys are really, really, really going to like this stuff. So you guys that are showing up this year, new for 2022, are you in for a treat? My only regret is I've already ridden a lot of the stuff, and except for the stuff that Andrew and Jim are dialing in for, so I'll go up and I'll ride all that stuff in the spring, and I don't get to ride any of it for the first time ever again, the stuff that I found. And Jeff Jensen went with me on some of that stuff, and he had a great time as well. So let's just go through day by day real quickly because I want to be out of here by 8 tonight and tell you how it's going to work. Day one's longer than it was last year. It's not a lot longer, and there's more single track in it. I figured out a way to get us some more single track, some better trail, to shorten some of those long transfer sections. It'll still be shorter for soloists than it is for 2- and 3-person teams, but it's going to be longer by probably, for most people, about 20 miles than it is this year. Now, again, people went out this year, pre-road day one, in one case, several times pre-road day one. So we'll just make it longer, anticipating that people are going to do that. I don't think it'll really affect anybody. Adding another 20 miles to it and really I'm getting rid of a bunch of fence crossings and stuff like that. It's a way better route this year. The only thing is that there is a little loop that you're going to have to do early in the morning, but that loop includes 2 killer dynamite single track trails. It adds maybe a half an hour to your morning or something. You get a couple really cool trails as the benefit of it. 3-person routes can get even a little bit harder and involved. And next year, I'm going to put my foot down. This year, I didn't say too much if you took the wrong route into Pocatello, but about half the teams get to Black Rock Canyon. This is a problem every year. I never take everybody along the same route through Black Rock. There's usually a solo route, a 2-person. In the past, I haven't really clamped down on that, but you can probably consider that this year your first big route finding challenge. You better figure out that you're on the right route going through Black Rock Canyon. This year I cut people a lot of slack, but in the future, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to clamp down that a little bit. So day 1, a little bit longer, but really good. The trails we're adding, you're really going to like riding. So I don't think anybody will mind that very much. Day 2, what is now the day off in Pocatello, we're going to start calling day 1A. Day 1A is not going to be a full day off in Pocatello, and I will adjust the supplemental points to make up for that. You're going to get, you could take half, 3/4 of a day off in Pocatello, but we're going to have you ride out of Pocatello sometime that next day, on that day 1A, and I would say you could get out of here as 3:30, 4 o'clock. As late as that, you could probably get out here at 5 o'clock and still be fine that time of year. And all we're going to do is take you to American Falls and on a truncated version of the current route. So you're going to ride out of Pocatello. You're going to do all that cool single track that you do, the first 90 minutes or 2 hours you leave Pocatello. There's a bunch of cool single track in there. I'm leaving in what is currently the challenge section as a bonus section. It's no longer a challenge section. It's just a bonus section if you want to ride it. Except you'd be kind of crazy to ride it because it about doubles the amount of trail since we're truncating all the rest of that stuff into American Falls. So you're going to ride that big loop that's sort of south of Pocatello. You're going to come back into Pocatello up above Kimport Peak, ride down something called Mashad Creek, and then you're just going to take farm roads over to American Falls. And there's several hotels over there you can stay. You should get there. If you left here at 4:30 or 5, you should be there by 7 or 7:30. It's not that far of a ride. It's all great trail, and you're really, really, really going to like it. Andrew Hickson, hello. So that's your day 1A. So the new day 2 will start in American Falls and early, so you can beat the heat because you're going to be sitting right at the edge of the desert. Now, I'm not going to do anything to make the desert harder because I'm putting you out there early in the morning. In the past, that was a weird kind of a thing because some teams got there on a day when it was overcast. That right around the beginning of August, we start getting monsoonal flow around here, and we get overcast days, and then it's not bad out in the desert at all. So some teams just suffered, and other teams were just like, oh, man, that was a walk in the park, man. That sand was great. So this will even that out a little bit. You're going to be coming out of that first thing in the morning out of American Falls, so nobody should have a bad day in the sand out there. I'm going to shorten up the sand section just a little bit. I want to get you up to where we started the mystery routes this year, up there at north of the Wapai lava flow, north of all the farm fields. And we're going to have mystery routes again this year. So once you get up above all those farm fields and you start out across the Snake River Desert towards Big Southern Butte, you'll get a mystery route again. And it's going to be the same format as this year. I got 30 or 40 mystery routes out there I can send you along. And I'm just going to do the same thing next year. American Falls, when you get there that night, I'll send you an email about this is where you're going to go tomorrow. And I'm going to send it pretty late at night probably too. So you will be able to ride out there, and we're going to do something new this year with PLBs. You can have your PLB on all day, day 1, as long as it's broadcasting at 10-minute intervals, okay, or uploading a point at 10-minute intervals. On day 2, or day 1A, you can also keep your PLB on all day long, and that's fine. On day 2, you're going to have to either turn it off or upload points to a password-protected page. Last year, I am painfully aware of the fact that there are some teams that like on the day 9 stuff that was supposed to be mystery route, they downloaded everybody else's data, which you can do. And just sort of, they knew what they were getting into before they even went there. There were teams that tried to figure out mystery routes in the desert. They plotted what other people had done, and then they said, well, it looks like it's going to basically go through this area, so we kind of know where we're going. We're going to stop all that next year. You'll either have to turn your PLB off or make your page password protected on day 2. And I think password protected is what we're going to encourage people to do. That way we're not giving it away. That way it's the same for the last team that goes through as it was for the first team that went through. Now, what I will tell you is that you're going to the Butte. So there'll be a mystery route that'll take you to the Butte. From the Butte, you go to Arco along the traditional path, the same one that we always use. And we have to do that. And I'm not going to make that mystery route because you're skirting the edge of the site out there, the Idaho National Laboratory. And I don't want to get anybody into trouble because it's real easy to get into the wrong place out there. And black UN helicopters will show up if you do that. So we'll publish the route from the Butte into Arco. You should be in Arco in time for lunch. And I'm not going to tell you where you're going after Arco. And I may not even tell you where you're going to spend the night. I got to think on that a little bit more. But from Arco, you are going someplace that we haven't gone before. And that'll be the end of your day 2. And man, are you ever going to be having fun. You're going to be riding some trails that day that are going to burn your eyes out. It's wonderful stuff. It's not that hard. But it's just great trail. I mean, it's bumpy. There's some technicality to it, but it's good stuff. Now, you're going to have to carry a saw this year. That's another thing we decided. There's no way that I and all the other guys that go out here and saw trail can guarantee that all this stuff gets sawed before tour season comes along because there's just too much of it. And every time the wind blows, stuff falls down. So this year we had a soloist, Sean Smith. He carried a saw and he did just fine. I've carried saws before. So I think we're going to tell everybody this year, look, we're not going to cut you any slack because you got into something that wasn't sawed. We're going to tell you it's best to start later in July. I'm going to start at July 15th the way I always do. But I'm going to tell people, look, probably a lot of this stuff doesn't get sawed up until the end of July, beginning of August, in through there. And you're going to have to carry a chainsaw with you. I think given the amount of remote single track that we have this year, some of the stuff I've been riding lately wasn't sawed when I went in there in September, in the beginning of October. So I know it's not going to be sawed in July. And it was easy for me to saw my way through it. But if I'd had just a handsaw, that would have been a problem. And I'm even going to work on a better saw mount for you all. I'm trying to figure out a way to build a saw mount that doesn't require that you remove your headlight mask, that's robust and doesn't adversely affect handling characteristics of bikes. And that's my winter project. So maybe we'll see more there. But if worse comes to worse, you can always get a couple of LEDs and clip them to your handlebars, and that's your headlight. But somebody in your team really does need to carry a saw this year. So day 2, mystery day after Arco, and a little bit of mystery before Arco. There'll be a mystery route from the northern edge of the farm fields to Big Southern Butte, the Big Southern Butte to Arco routes, well known. Then beyond that, it's mystery route for the rest of the day. Day 3, you're going to get up, and I'll tell you where you're going to end up. You're going to end up in Mackey, but I'm not going to tell anybody that's another mystery day. The whole day is going to be a mystery day. So you're going to go to this. At the end of day 2, you're going to end up in some place you're probably not going to know about until I tell you. And day 3, you're going to ride from that place to Mackey. And it's just some of the most spectacular trail I've ever ridden. Now, day 1 this year has a challenge section. Day 1A does not. That current challenge section is now a bonus. Day 2 does not have a challenge section. There's nothing in there that looked like it rose to the level of what I want a challenge section to be. There's one little short trail I could have put in, but it bypasses some stuff that I'd rather have you ride. It's better trail, and also it's not long enough. So the next challenge section after day 1 is actually on the new day 3. And man, it's a huckleberry. It's a beauty. The new day 2 is 250 miles. It's about the same length as the current day 2. The new day 3, if you do the challenge section, is over 200 miles, about 225 miles. If you don't, it's about 175 miles. So the new day 3 should be a relatively short day unless you attempt the challenge section. There's a bonus section in there if you want to try that. So on the new day 3, you get a relatively short day. You should be in Mackey relatively early that night. Again, if we're going to add a bunch of new trail, we can't just keep cramming it into making days longer and longer, because that's unfair to new teams. We're making it a lot harder than they used to be. So we're throwing in a really short day here. Even day 2 is not that bad. There's a lot of transfer section on day 2, and it should go fairly fast. So you're going to be arriving where you're going to be going, I think, relatively early in the day. Same thing with day 3. You should get to Mackey relatively early in the day, but man, are you going to have some photos to look at. They're just going to be killer. This is great stuff. And if you do the challenge section on day 3, oh boy, you better be ready to go, because it's a beaut. So day 4 will be Mackey to Smoky Bar Store. When I put together this group, I told everybody, look, the one thing that I'm going to insist on is that Smoky Bar Store remain on the tour, and the Village at North Fork remain on the tour. Those people have always treated us well. They're terrific folks in both places. They really love you guys, guys and gals, and I want to keep those relationships up. I think that it's a good synergy that we have going on there. It's good for us. It's good for them. And I also kind of want to get you into those places early. So since we're starting in Mackey on the new day 4, used to be day 3, but it's now day 4, and we're starting in Mackey instead of Arco, we added some trail on the other side of Ketchum. So Jeff Jensen was very generous, went out, did a whole bunch of work, and we added about, I don't know, it looks like 30 miles maybe of single track out of Ketchum. So you still should get into Smoky Bar Store fairly early. But there's more stuff west of Ketchum than there used to be. You'll get to Ketchum a lot earlier. You'll get there easily in time to eat lunch, and then you should have the trails that are on there are wonderful. And we'll publish that too. I asked Jeff if he wanted to make that mystery route, and he said no, those trails are well ridden, well known. So we'll publish all those. So that'll be a day where you're going to know where you're going in advance, and you're going to end up at Smoky Bar Store. And again, part of that is we want to get you in there early. Now, there is a challenge section on that new day 4, and it's the same one as exists right now. And that's a Huckleberry too. That's kind of an interesting challenge section. The hardest part is right at the end, but even the part going over the top is not anything trivial because it's hard to find. Now, we're still going to go. The new day 5 will be Smoky Bar Store to Chalice, and we're going to follow essentially the same route, but with some changes. So there'll still be a bonus section down there near Bowery. So the Bowery thing will be a full point bonus section. Generally this year, in order for you to earn a full point on a bonus section, I made them a lot longer. So last year I had guys arguing with me. You know, I rode 3 miles down a trail. I think I should get a bonus for it. And sometimes I gave that. Some of the early teams, you know, that were log hopping a lot, that went out there and checked some things out for me, it's worth it. But later on in the season, not so much so. So this year, bonus sections are all long. So you're going to earn it if you ride it. Some of the things that I had as bonus sections this year, I made mandatory for 3-person teams next year. One of the ways I use some of that stuff. But anyway, so Bowery is still a full 1-point bonus section. I think one team did that this year. It was the Armadillos. Man, they earned that point. That's a Huckleberry. It's not challenge section level, but it sure is bonus section level. You're going to do the same exact thing that we do right now to get you down to Sawmill Station. Great place for lunch. And then after that, same route that we have currently, except I'm going to once again give soloists the option to go down Cinnabar Creek if you want to. It's kind of technical, but it really does cut a lot of time off. If you do the challenge section, one of the things that's happened a lot the last few years is what everybody did that wanted to ride a challenge section. There was nothing wrong with this. I told everybody, look, you can do this if you want. Is they just drop all their gear since you started and ended the challenge section in the same spot and just go up and ride it on unloaded bikes. Well, okay, that was perfectly within the rules, but we're going to fix it so you can't do that anymore. You're going to ride up the Custer the way we've always done it, but you're going to ride out the Razor's Edge. Then you're going to ride down Silver Creek to get out. So you got there's much more exposure. You think that last turn getting up to Custer's a Huckleberry. Wait until you ride out that ridge and all that stuff. Ask who was it this year? Coleman Stove, what they thought about that. Uh, and again, I'm responding to people telling me that, well, I didn't think that was that bad. Okay, well, I think you'll think this is that bad. So, again, challenge section material. It's going to live up to the name from now on. What everybody else will do is go out 5 Mile Creek the way we do it right now. And then you'll hit the Custer Motorway. You're going to ride up. We're going to keep the 2 and 3 person variations the way they are. That little out and back that goes to the wilderness area is still going to be there. And we're going to leave that worth 1 point. Michael Knight talked me into that. And I was thinking about making that, excuse me, a half a point. And Michael talked me out of it. His reasoning was really good. Michael Knight's a smart man, and he speaks incredibly well. And I listen very carefully to everything that he says. And he just said, look, that nearly put an end to our tour because it's an hour that doesn't advance you an inch. And it was late in the day when we got there. And I said, well, that's one of the reasons I'm thinking about making it worth a half a point so that people won't get suckered into doing it. He goes, yeah, but we knew, you told us, and we did what we did, so maybe we should leave it. And he's absolutely right. So we're going to leave that one. But the third one is now a mandatory part of the route. So that big loop to the south that avoids that Beater Treeler Creek quad trail, Treeler Creek's not on the tour anymore. Everybody's going to take that big loop to the south, which is completely beautiful, ends in a really killer single track that takes you up there to the lake. And I just think that's the better way to do it. It doesn't even take that much longer than doing that Beater quad trail in the first place. So you're going to get into Chalice. Again, that'll be kind of a long day. Most people find that it's now day 5 to be a long day. So most people get into Chalice around 7 or after. Okay. Now, what will now be day 6? Woohoo! Is it ever a Huckleberry? It might be my favorite day of the tour. It's just freaking awesome. If you follow me in social media, and if you don't, you should, because you can look through my pictures and you can get kind of a preview of coming attractions on my Instagram feed and on my Facebook feed. But day 6 is just killer. It was just killer. And Jeff Jensen was with me when I wrote a lot of this stuff for the first time. We went up for 3 days a few weeks ago, camped out, and wrote a bunch of this stuff. And it was just, it's incredible. So you're going to ride all the way out to Iron Lake. We're going to do everything that we've always done in the past out to Iron Lake. But Iron Lake's going to be an out and back. So what you're going to do is you're going to ride out through Hat Creek Lakes. You're going to ride over that ridge, down through the boulder field. You're going to ride up that trail to Iron Lake. Then you're going to ride back down that trail. And there is a single track trail that goes right down Hat Creek. And you're going to follow Hat Creek all the way down to US 93. You're going to cross the road there and take the road that goes to May and Patterson and all that. It goes down the northern end of the Peshimmeroy Valley. And it's going to be mystery route from there on out. But basically, instead of taking Ridge Road into Salmon on the west side of 93, you're going to go to the east side of 93, and we're going to take you into Salmon that way. And man, did we find some cool stuff. There's some stuff back in there. It blew me away when I saw what it does. Just beautiful scenery, and it's kind of technical too. There's some hard riding in it. There's a loop that we're going to have you do, about a 20-mile loop. And if you ride it one way, it's just the regular route. If you ride it the other way, it's going to be the challenge section. And I'm not going to give that away right now because it's going to be mystery route. But there's a big loop in there you're going to have to do. And you can get challenge section points for it if you ride it one way. And it's just the regular route if you ride it the other. It's the last thing I would ever consider doing as a challenge section. Not because it's incredibly hard, but because I think it would just beat the crap out of you. I think your wheels would no longer be round by the time you were finished with it. Uh, I don't think anybody's going to get the salmon very early that day. I think most teams will get the salmon around 7 o'clock. I think it's going to be a fairly long day. So I really like you all being able to deal with Josh. We want to make sure he stays involved. Salmon is the second biggest town along the tour you're going to stay in. It's a nice place. So you're going to get a half a day off in Salmon, which is something that a lot of people were clamoring for a long time anyway. So day 6A is going to be in Salmon. You can spend the morning in Salmon, and then we're going to take you up to the village at North Fork that afternoon. We got a pretty cool route that's going to take you there. There's 2 or 3 single track trails. It dumps you down out into Leesburg. Then you're going to ride Panther Creek and the Salmon River Road up to North Fork. It should be a short, enjoyable day. Once again, you can probably get out of Salmon 3:34 in the afternoon and still be there by 7:30 at night. You'll be just fine. Now, you are going to spend 2 nights at the village at North Fork. So 6A, that night you're going to be there, and 7, you're going to be there that night. And what we're going to do for the next day, and I'll probably publish this too. I'm not going to make this mystery route because it's already out there. We're going to combine all the stuff that we did this year on the west side of 93 with all the stuff that we used to do on the east side of 93 and make one ginormous loop. But since you're starting from the village at North Fork, we can get all that stuff in a day, and I don't even think it'll be a long day. I think you'll be just fine. And there'll be some bonus sections on that day. There'll be a challenge section on that day, and it's going to be Ditch Creek up. So if you ride Ditch Creek uphill, you can get challenge section points. It's not that technical, but it's a beater, and I think it's worthy of challenge section just because of the amount of effort that's required to get your bike up that trail as opposed to down. We used to give you credit for down, but we're not going to do that anymore. Now, that'll get you through, that's day 7. So the night of 6A and the night of 7, you're going to be at the village at North Fork. So 2 nights there. Great place to spend the night. There's actually several restaurants there. There's a really nice pizzeria a couple miles up the road. There's more than, you can stay at several places there. It's not just that place. There's some bunkhouses all over the place there. But I do highly recommend you deal with those folks because they've just always been so wonderful with us. So that gets you to the new day 8. And the new day 8 is just like the current day 7. So you're going to ride basically from North Fork. The only thing we're trying to decide right now is we've always told everybody the last couple of years, we don't care if you stay in Elk City or Lowell. It might actually be better for you to stay in Elk City, which is what we used to do until a few years ago. But I want to get a feel. I need to think a little bit more about the routes from Elk City / Lowell to Superior. We are going to go Superior, no more Locksha Lodge. I want to think about that a little bit, and that will inform that decision. So it'll either still be an option. You can stay in either place, or we might just say, no, you're going to stay in Elk City. Elk City's the better place. You can get parts for your motorcycle. There's more stuff there. The restaurant's better there. I think it's an altogether better situation for you. But I'm going to talk to the people in the steering group a little bit more about that. But the one thing that is going to, on day 8 now, you're really going to want to think about that challenge section. And I'm going to try to go in this year and ride it again and see if I can at least flag where it's supposed to go. The place that it says on the map is not where the trail goes. You'd have to be crazy to follow the line on the map. And if you ever get in there and see it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's another one of those kind of things where there's a line on the map and every government agency just insists, well, that's where the trail has to be, but it's stupid to put the trail there. There's a place that makes rational sense that does not detract from what I consider to be the technical part of the trail anyway. You still got to go through the Erzberg Mile to get to this place. But when you get to the end of the Erzberg Mile, there is a rational way to get down to the road that just doesn't happen to coincide with what's on the maps. So we'll go out there early this year and take a look at that. But all of a sudden, that's going to have to be a challenge section you may have to think about. So anyway, you'll either go to Elk City or Lowell, same as we're doing right now. I'm not going to change anything about that. So that's the new day 8. The new day 9 will be from either Elk City or Lowell to Superior, Montana. And what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to give you a choice of two different routes. And, I'm going to look at this. I got to see if I can balance the difficulty between the two so it's roughly the same either way. Or if not, I may say, look, if you're up on points, you can take this way. If you need some points, you can take the other way. But there's going to be two completely separate routes. And it's because, again, this year, the fires got me to thinking about stuff that was on the tour, 12, 15 years ago that we haven't used in a long time. That route out through Wietus is a killer route. That's a good route. And then if you come in and ride Windy Ridge from the north, it's a lot longer and more technical than riding it from the south, the way we do it. And I think we should offer you the option of doing it either way. So I think what we'll probably do is say, look, you can go ride you can ride out to Fish Butte, ride down that trail, and you can either go up Sherman Creek and go that way. And by the way, Sherman Creek will be a regular part of the route. It's no longer a challenge section. And or you can ride up Ant Hill, and Ant Hill will be the challenge section that we'll use on that day. Or you can ride back out Middle Butte and all that stuff. And if you take either the Ant Hill challenge section or if you ride back out Middle Butte, you can go either way when you get to the top. So you can go and ride Windy Ridge from the south, or you can ride around Wietus and get to it from the north. Either way will work. So I'm going to allow you some flexibility to do whatever you want there. You get to decide. The only trail we're going to lose is nobody's going to ride that Martin Creek Trail anymore. It's kind of cool, but it's short. And then we're going to lose that Lundy Ridge Rock Garden Trail, and I don't think anybody's going to shed any tears over that. It's sort of a shabbier version of Ant Hill. I don't think it will be missed. So that's the new day 8, which gets you to, that's the new day 9, pardon me, which gets you to the new day 10. And the new day 10, Andrew and Jim Spooner are putting together for me right now. Now, I've talked to those guys a little bit, and I've said, look, we're going to leave the cool stuff that's already on that day. So all that stuff around State Line Trail and stuff that makes the tour so cool, that stuff's going to stay there. You're coming out of Superior, and I think I don't think anybody is going to miss that road that goes up over Fly Hill and Gospel Hill and all that stuff. That's the worst road in the world. So I think we're going to take you out the paved road into Superior. Then I think we're probably going to take you up to Missoula Lake. I talked to those guys, and they agreed with me that there's nothing wrong with doing that. And then we'll take you out to that Heller Simmons area, and you may get 2 challenge sections on that day. In fact, I'm sure you will. I think we'll have a challenge section right in that Heller Simmons area. And then as you get back, as you get up on State Line Road and you start riding towards Wallace, where those guys took you around those loops last year, we've got some more this year. We've got a much bigger, much more involved loop. And those guys have a challenge section in there that is just a complete huckleberry. Everybody I talked to, I said, well, these guys are talking about doing this. What do you think? And you ever heard that term, deer in the headlights look? That's what I hear every time I talk to somebody about the trails that Andrew and Jim are talking about. So it's a huckleberry. So I anticipate I will see no YouTube videos of people standing behind the trail grinning at me saying, yeah, we didn't think it was that bad. All right. Well, let's see what you think now. So that'll be the new day 10. Take you into Wallace. And again, I told those guys I want to get people there kind of early, which I think is possible because we're starting from Superior. We can throw in an awful lot of good trail. And the stuff that I've already mapped out, the stuff up to State Line Road, that will continue to be mapped out. You'll have maps, waypoints, stuff like that. But once we get up on State Line Road, it's going to be mystery route from there on out. If you get that far, I'll send you directions just like we did this year. This is where you're going to be going that day. You will end up in Wallace that night with Donna. And then as far as I know, the only thing, most people agree with me, we want to keep day 10 kind of, the new day 11, kind of rational. The new day 11, I don't want anybody to ever fail the Tour of Idaho on day 11, which I nearly did once. And others have as well. There was a team a few years ago that had a bike just give up the ghost. So, and they towed it. I don't want to see that happen to anybody. So day 11, when Brent Carlson and Michael Knight were on PBR Monday a few months ago, they talked about just rolling down some of those fire roads and just thinking about what you did. And I completely agree with that. I want to keep that element in there. The only thing we are going to do is we're going to work on the challenge section a little bit. We're going to beef it up. So if you do that Independence Creek Trail, there's going to be a little bit more back in there you have to do. We're going to make it a little harder, a little more cringeworthy, so to speak. And those Way Up North guys are working on that. So there you go. So it's 11 days this year plus 2 half days. So you're out, the 2 half days, I guess, add up to a whole day of riding. So it's 12 days of riding with an additional day off. So it's 13 days altogether. So it's 11 days of riding along with 2 days that are half a day off, half a day of riding. So 13 days out there altogether. And the places that you're going to be going still, or you'll be in Malad night 1, or before the start of day 1, you'll be in Pocatello. American Falls is new this year. Not telling you where you're going next yet, and maybe not ever. Mackey, Smoky Bar Store, Chalice, the Village at North Fork twice, 2 nights, either Elk City or Lowell. And I'll know that pretty soon. I'll know that probably right around the first of the year sometime. We should have that wrapped up. And I don't object. Even if I say we're going to stay in Elk City this year and you decide to stay in Lowell, I don't object to that much at all. Superior, Montana, Wallace, and then you're done. After that, you can do whatever you want to do. So that's what it's going to look like this year. That's a broad overview of the rules changes. There will be some more. We'll get into a little bit later on, penalties for people that have done extensive pre-riding, things like that. We'll nail that down. Again, the most important thing for you to know right now is there's a strict limit of 30 teams this year, and preference is to people that have not tried the tour before. Now, if you tried it last year and you want to come back again this year, by all means, you can do it, but you're going to go to the bottom of the list. And if it rolls up to 30 teams, then there may be a problem. But right now I'm going to set the limit at 30, and I'm going to give preference to teams that haven't been here before, or teams that maybe did it a long time ago. If it's been more than 5 years, as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. Now, something that came up when I was talking to the folks in this group, and it's not an incredibly large group, and it's almost all people that have done the tour just in the last couple of years, because I think it's important to get perspective on people that it's still kind of fresh in their mind. And also, there were some guys in there that I knew had ridden all this stuff, so I pulled them in too. A lot of veteran teams want to come back and do it again. And my view about that's always been the same. I think if you've already earned a jersey number, you should just ride it. Just ride it any way you want to ride it. If you bend my arm up behind my back, I'll say, sure, okay, you can do it again under the rules and all this kind of stuff. But really, once you have gotten your jersey number, you did it. And if you just want to ride the trails again, I'll give you the stuff. For everybody else. But maybe the better thing you could do, I talked to Jeff Jensen, several guys about this. This year, I'm going to try to do the whole thing, but I'm going to do it a couple days at a time. I'm going to take my toy hauler out. I'm going to take my family. I'm going to take saws. My bike is going to be bristling with saws and things to brush with. And I'm just going to go out and ride the whole thing on my own terms with saws and try to saw the whole damn thing. And I think any veteran that wants to do it, that just wants to experience these great new trails, think about doing it that way. Just think about riding a sawing trip or something. Support yourself. But I don't want to, if you really want to do it again, and it's been more than a few years, heck yeah, just we'll put you in the queue with all the rest of the team. So I'm going to come up with a way pretty soon. I'll start a new page, or I'll start a new thread over in the forum, T1 2022. As soon as you know that you want to do it next year, you should get your team on that list. As always, I will name the team, so I'll give you the format and everything. Just tell me who's coming, where you're from, what bikes you're riding, stuff like that. Put a little bit of information about you. I'm going to ask for a little bit more information up front this year. And pretty much if I see KLR 650, that's a no. but we'll start that up pretty soon, and we'll get all that going so that people can get on it as early as possible. So you might want to spread the word this year. There is going to be a limited number of teams, and preference goes to people that haven't been here or at least haven't been here recently. However, if you are a returning team, that just means you're in the back of the queue. It doesn't mean you can't do it again. But returning teams will be riding more challenge sections than teams that that are fresh out of the queue. It's really the only way to make it fair. You know, if you have a lot of prior knowledge about the trail, it's different than for the people that have never even been here. You know, we have a team coming from Europe this year. I guarantee you they've never ridden any of this stuff. They don't know anything about, you know, the tire types that you need to do this stuff. And I just want to level that playing field a little bit. Now, one final thing. And then I don't see much in the line of questions here. So if you have any, right now is a good time to put them up as long as there's a name to go with them. But I want to talk about calendars. We're going to do calendars again this year. I will once again come up with a way. I'll go over to the forum to do it, and I'll start a thread in the forum. If you want to get a calendar this year, all you have to do is pay me in advance, and you don't even have to send me the envelope and all that stuff to get it mailed back in. I've got a pretty slick system here. My wife is the queen of Mercari, and so I was forced to do things like buy postal scales and get an account with the post office, you know, to print the labels and stuff right here. So we're slick now. We got all that stuff done. My wife probably does $1,000 a week business on Mercari. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. So all you have to do is tell me you want a calendar and send me the money, and I'll tell you exactly how to do that. And Venmo, PayPal, all that stuff works. If you have pictures that you want to consider for publication in a calendar, I'll tell you how to send them to me. The pictures that I'm most interested in are Sundance pictures for teams that made it that far, pictures on top of Oxford Peak, and pictures at the flagpole. Those are all, because I like to do collages of those and get as many of the teams as possible as I can in with all that stuff. So please send me those. However, this year I'm not giving away any calendars just because all of the money that I make off these calendars is going to go towards the hospitality fund. So I want to make sure that this year there were 3 or 4 of us that donated in excess of $400 to the hospitality fund. But I think it's pretty cool when you show up at a place like Smoky Bar Store and you just had a great day of riding, and you know, Kaylin says, "Hey, somebody picked this up for you." I want to continue that. I want to continue that hospitality, and these calendars are a good way to do that. It's a pretty good chunk of money I can make. So if you want a calendar, again, I'll have a place in the forum where you can do it. I'll tell you exactly how to get me the money. I think Venmo's the best, but I can take PayPal and Zelle and a couple of other things as well. And I'll ship them all out. I'll have those calendars waiting for me when I get back. You should get them right around the first of the year. I'm taking a vacation. I'm going to be gone between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I should be back Christmas week. I'm going to arrange to have the calendars delivered then, and I'll get them in the mail right away. So you should get them right around. I predict right on the first of the year, right around there. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So let's see. I've seen Forest Service guys with nice saw carriers on bikes hung over left rear. Yeah, there's a company in Boise that makes those racks. I used to like those too, except I snapped off 2 subframes with those racks. That's why I almost didn't finish one year. I snapped off my rear subframe coming out of Independence Creek once. I looped it at the top where there used to be those gullies with all those tree roots, and the bike, when it hit that rack on the back, it just snapped the rear subframe right off. And I had to take my giant loop bags and put them around my neck, duct tape a bunch of stuff to my handlebars, and I rode all the rest of the way standing up. So I like those. And you don't have to remove your headlight mask, but I just don't think your rear subframe is designed to have that kind of a load. Okay, Tyler, what do mystery route directions look like? Written directions? Yes, they're written directions. And there's 2 ways to do it. The way we did it in day 9 this year, and I'll publish, I'll put up some of this stuff over in the forum to show you what it's going to look like. But on day 9 this year, what we said is, ride 10 miles, look for this trail on the right, ride it to its end, then go 2 miles, ride this trail on the left. It was literally just distances, trail names, and trail numbers. And those trails were well marked. Everybody loved it. The mystery route out in the desert is a little bit different because the desert basically is kind of featureless, and there's cow trails going everywhere. So we give you a compass bearing, compass rows to the next place you're going to stop, a distance, and it's actually navigating by compass and distance. So there's 2 different ways we do it. The only way we're going to do the compass bit is on the mystery route out in the desert because it's appropriate for it. Every place else we do it, we're going to do it the way we did day 9 this year, which is that morning or the night before, you will receive from me via email or a document attached to a text message, which will just be a set of written directions. This is what you're going to do this day. And in all cases, you won't have any trouble finding what you're going to do. The trails are obvious, and I don't think it's going to hurt you in the least bit. So that's the way we'll do it, and that's the way we do that. Throwing your leg over a rear saw mount sucks every time you get on and off the bike. Yeah, I can't kick my leg high enough to get over my top handle saw when I do that. I have to stand on the peg when I do that. All right. So once again, you've wasted a perfectly good hour with a total knucklehead, talking about all this crazy stuff. I really appreciate all of you that are out there tonight that took the time to do this. I want to do 3 more of these before we leave on our winter vacation, and then we will. Andrew Hickson, can we know general areas so we can get maps? No, you cannot. This is total mystery stuff. I'll provide you with everything that you need. What I want you, I don't know, I don't see a lot of names out here, and I see a lot of anonymous Facebook users, but I hope some of you are people that finished this year that didn't manage to get on a previous PBR Monday. And I will reach out to all of you anyway. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that every team that finished this year gets their 60 minutes of fame on PBR Monday. I felt terrible that I wasn't able to do that, but I also would never have been able to discover all these new trails had I not, gone out and ridden on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, which are the days that because of my responsibilities with my kids and my wife's work schedule, I can always ride those days. So I got all that stuff done, but I was not able to show a proper amount of respect to some teams that finished this year. Please let me know which of the next 3 weeks would be a good week for you to appear on PBR Monday. And if I don't hear from you in the next few days, I will reach out to you directly and say, look, I'm going to do this right up until around Thanksgiving. Let's get you on one of these weeks so we can talk. Then PBR Monday will be suspended until sometime in the spring. I may do an occasional broadcast, just upload it whenever I get some news or something like that. But in terms of scheduling PBR Mondays, I don't think I'll do any of that until probably around March sometime. We'll fire it up. I may do a holiday special this year because that was kind of fun last year. I'll be off my diet by then, and I can actually drink bourbon whiskey again. All right. Thanks again, everybody. I will see you all next week, the week after that, at the very least. And you guys that finished this year that weren't on a PBR Monday, reach out to me so that we can get something set up. As always, thank you. It's a great pleasure to talk with you all every week. Be seeing you. Andrew and Jim, thank you.